Back a little bit. Hello. Got to get my camera right. Sorry, everybody. Okay. Hello, everyone. It is another Friday Love Your Liver live stream here on the YouTube machine. And it is, did I already say date? Gosh, February 25th, 2022. We're going to be going over a couple things before we get into the questions. Pretty interesting stuff. First thing I'm going to put up, I'm just going to put in the links in the chat. This is also in the video description. I'm putting a link to the Google Doc that I made where we're going over a testimonial on autoimmune hyperthyroid. Not hypo. I've got hypo testimonials. I've been over them here before, but I wanted to go over hyperthyroid and the poisoning of potassium iodide that many of us have done, and some of you out there probably listening are still doing to your thyroid. You're ruining your thyroid with potassium iodide, ruining it. It doesn't need potassium iodide at all. And imagine if they're fortifying our flour with vitamins and iron that we don't need, and people know that that's not good for you. What do they fortify your salt with? Oh, potassium iodide. Oh, they probably picked the best form they could give you, right? That's what they do, right? They pick the best things, the very best things they can give us and force them into our foods, right? You can take that to the bank until they don't let you go to the bank anymore. Anyway, first I'm going to go over real quick how to know that what we're doing is on the right path. My buddy Edis sent this to me. Hey, Edis, if you're watching. In New Scientist, right? Trust the science. New Scientist says purple superfood tomato could finally go on sale in the U.S. I put this link in the chat. A small company has applied for approval in the U.S. to sell a genetically modified tomato that is rich in the beneficial pigments found in blueberries. Now, first of all, they took a nightshade plant. It's technically a fruit. We can call it a vegetable, but it's technically a fruit because it's got seeds inside of it. So they took a nightshade. Nightshades, if you did not know, well, let's say it's got nightshades have some of the highest amounts of carotenoids of all the plant foods out there. So vitamin A, they are super high in vitamin A. Thanks to help from folks like David Hagerston inside the Love Your Liver network, he looked into the chemistry of some of the things that were in stuff like spicy peppers, capsicum, for those of you who call it that. And he found a compound that's actually two retinoic acids bound to each other. So they come off, they're like stuck together. So imagine if your body could take that and break it into two retinoic acids. You'd be basically eating retin A. And then just having retin A run around your system from eating peppers. Peppers are really inflammatory. Weird coincidence, is it not? Nightshades are not good for you. Now, the easy list of that is tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, and eggplant. There's also goji berries. For those of you who are trying to eat superfoods, goji berries are amazingly high in carotenoids. I remember I tried goji berries a couple times, eating them, the dried ones. And then I also tried some goji berry tea. It was in like this detox tea as I was intoxicating myself with poison. Anyway, nightshades are not good for you overall. Now, some people will say, but potatoes, they're one of the few things I can eat. I had somebody the other day try to tell me that there was nothing left to eat. And I said, I didn't talk to this person back about it because they were just kind of freaking out and I didn't really have a response for them because they weren't really asking for a response. I don't take away all the foods from anybody. That would be a complete incorrect thing. This person had gone so far as to say that they have iron overload, which they told me they're ferritin, and I agreed that they did. I did not agree with. I did not. This was not a conversation. I would have agreed that they had iron overload. And so they had decided that anything that they considered high in iron, they could not eat. So all of a sudden, I can't eat meat. That's what they're saying to me. I can't eat meat. I can't eat beans even. And I was going, oh, wow. Yeah, you got, in my head, I'm going, you got nothing left to eat. You did that to yourself. I didn't do that. I've had people come to me who say, I go to the grocery store and there's nothing I can eat. And this is before they even got to me. And I said, that's because you've done all of this stuff based on stuff that doesn't even make you feel bad. You're listening to internet bloggers and gurus like Ray Pete who tell you things are bad for you when they don't make you feel bad. Potatoes. Here's a huge one, though. Potatoes are sneaky bastards. Potatoes are the sneakiest of the nightshades. And yes, some people may need to eat them at the start because that's one of the few foods they tolerate. When many people come to me and they have very few foods they can eat. Sometimes they're down to like 2 or 3 foods. And that's before they get to me. But the funny thing is they often find that the foods they can eat are the foods that are on the low vitamin A program, which is such a coincidence, is it not? Potatoes, over time, people say, oh, I feel fine on them. I don't notice anything. And this is the thing that can happen with them. And then over time, they slowly start getting more and more health problems. And then they finally realize it's the potatoes. So if you got to eat them, like for people who are worried about, there's people out there who can only eat rice. Actually, this person said, now you're telling me I can't eat rice. And I actually specifically say in my rice and arsenic video that if rice is the only thing you can eat, you eat it. You don't starve yourself. For those of you out there who are starving yourselves, like I had to save a guy's life from the GAPS diet because he went from like 180 pounds down to 135 pounds. I had to save his life by telling him to stop all that bullshit. You're dying. You're killing yourself. Your wife's good intentions with the GAPS diet is killing you. And he went and he changed his diet and he started feeling so much better by eating some carbs. These people are killing you out there, folks. Anyway, back to the nightshade. So they're going to take a nightshade, an inherently inflammatory. Why is it inflammatory? Because it's full of vitamin A, lycopene, carotenoids, all that stuff. It's got food-based vitamin D in it too. Wow, wonder what makes it inflammatory. If you haven't seen my vitamin D as a poison video on this channel, you should go watch it. Don't eat vitamin D. So we got vitamin D in food and vitamin A. And then they're going to go and put the proanthocyanins or the anthocyanins, however you want to say it, from blueberries in it. So we got a genetically modified nightshade with compounds, polyphenols. Phenols are poisons, folks. Multiple phenols are poisons. So they're going to go and put more polyphenols in it. The antioxidant theory is garbage. The antioxidant theory is poisoning you. The antioxidant theory is slowing down your detox pathways. Your body has a designed by God antioxidant system in it that works really well when you stop assaulting it with plant poisons. I don't have people take any antioxidants other than, if somebody wanted to say this, the fact that zinc and selenium are considered to have antioxidant properties. But other than that, I don't encourage any antioxidants. But they're going to go and poison you with a nightshade, genetically modified, with extra antioxidant blueberry type pigments in it. This should tell you that it's poison. What's Bill Gates' favorite vitamin that he loves to biofortify foods with or genetically modify foods with? Vitamin A. So let's take a vitamin A food now and put even more poisons in it. Are you catching this now? The antioxidant theory has always been garbage. We all fell for it. Don't think that I got around it. I fell for it too. Now I know. So now, on to the testimonial for today. So for those of you who are in the document, if you want to see this, I have the labs in the document. This person, I want to emphasize something before I start. This person came to me hyperthyroid. Hyperthyroid, if you did not know already, is always autoimmune. I mean, unless they can induce it by poisoning you, but what's autoimmunity? Autoimmunity is a poisoning. You're toxic. Don't think that autoimmunity is anything else. Autoimmunity is you're toxic. That's it. Like I said, the link is in the chat. If you want to go find the link to this document and look at it with me right now, that's about the best I can do because I don't have streaming software and all that stuff. But also the link is in the description of this video below. So I don't treat. I don't have a magical. So all these doctors out there and practitioners who say they have protocols to treat specific conditions, I don't do that. I help the body get rid of the poisons by not putting them in and helping it get rid of the stored toxins. I give the body the nutrients that it needs. And this person was working with me in the individual testing and consultation package, which is at the store on my website at nutritiondetective.com. They were doing the testing and consultation. We work on it through also fixing the bile pathway through lactoferrin. And then in the future, which this person was not doing to this point, there's another key part that's going to be part of it. So I did not change anything I did for this person based on her condition. I do what I do. It's the same thing for everybody. The root of your sickness, whatever it is, even if you're just mildly fatigued or you have a little bit of insomnia, it is rooted in toxicity and nutrient deficiency, and those two things causing bile to leak into your blood, subclinical cholestasis. I forgot to get her bile numbers. I will have to look this up. I will have to get that. I can't believe I forgot to do that. This was awesome. I will put these in right now. I don't have a picture of these labs, but I have my there we go. Okay. So I'm going to read her testimonial first. Improvements. Heart palpitations and irregular heartbeat were gone for a while, but started to come back recently, and I need to discuss it with you. Stepping aside, we discussed it. I'm positive we figured it out. It was something that she was detoxing too fast, which I constantly tell people. Again, this is not a game. If you're out there trying to just listen to me and get it all for free and do it on your own, and you're wondering why are things not going as well as I planned, you're doing too much. You're going too fast. So we fix it. This is what consulting with me can do. Next part, great improvement in my thyroid labs. Here is the comparison of two lab reports from June 18th, 2021 to January 8th, 2022. And you can see this on an image. I did a screenshot of the pertinent labs. So this is a person who was hyperthyroid. She still is technically a bit hyperthyroid. So all these labs are not all within range yet. But when you hear her symptoms improvements, you'll understand that we're doing lots of good things. So her free T4 index, which I don't use, is still a bit high. Her reverse T3, a lot of people get reverse T3. You don't want it high. She was at, sorry, I got to look a little closer. She was at a 24 previously in June, and now she's at a 20. So the high end of the range, they were saying the range is 8 to 25. She was almost high out of range, and now she's more in the middle of the range. Okay. T3 uptake, again, I don't use this. She was high out of range. Remember, she's still hyperthyroid. Free T3. Gosh, these numbers, the way this is coming up on my screen. She was at a 6.4. Now she's at a 5.3. The normal range is 2.3 to 4.2. So yeah, she's still hyperthyroid, but she's moving in the right direction. Am I doing anything purposely to make this happen? Well, I mean, I'm doing what I do, but I'm not giving her herbs or pharmaceutical poisons to drive her numbers down by frying her thyroid, which is what modern medicine does. T3 total was 170. Is that 9 or 6? That was 176 before, went down to 127. Oh, I need to just wait. Control Shift. There we go. I just made it a little bigger. Now I can see it better. So she went from 176 down to 127. The range is 76 to 181. So she was on the border of being high before, and now she's right down in the middle of the range. Total T4. She was at 11.1. Now she's at 7.6. So again, the range was 5.1 to 11.9. So she was pushing the high end of the range before, and now she's right down in the middle of it. Free T4. She was at 2.4, now is 1.7. The range is 0.8 to 1.8. So we got her down into the normal range of free T4. Thyroglobulin antibodies, one of the markers of autoimmune thyroid. She was at a 1 in June, and now she's at less than 1. So basically they can't measure it very well anymore, which is what we want. They say less than or equal to 1 IU. So she was at 1 before, now she's less than 1. So that's better. Now, this is an interesting one. This didn't go in the direction we wanted. Thyroid peroxidase antibodies, or TPO antibodies, were at a 71. They went up to 111. This is things that happen as we go. Not all of the, if somebody were to look at this and go, oh my gosh, that means things are getting worse. No, that's not. Look at all her thyroid labs. Everything's moving in the right direction. If detox is a real process, we will see it in the blood tests, and some things get a little worse before they get better. But if somebody could not look at the overall balance of this thyroid labs and realize that things are moving in a very good direction, they'd be very wrong. Now, this person is now TSH. She was at a 0.01 before. Now she's at less than 0.01. This is not a significant difference, really. There's no way to tell what is going on with that. But TSH is not what we use to judge the progress of the thyroid. An analogy I use is looking at TSH to judge the thyroid is like looking at the gas pedal of a car to tell how fast the car is going. You can't look at a gas pedal of a car to tell how fast the car is going. Is the car even turned on? Is the car in drive? Is the emergency brake on? Is the car in reverse? So you can't look at all those things mean different things in regards to the gas pedal. The gas pedal could be mashed to the floor, and yet the car is not doing what you want it to do. So TSH, as a marker of anything, I don't use it. So anyway, continuing. Now I put in her bile acids. So this person got her bile acids tested. And this is the most drastic change I've seen in the bile acids since I started suggesting to people that they could do it. People don't have to do these, but they can. They don't change my treatment at all. And they're not cheap. So I don't force anyone to get them because they don't change the treatment course. So her serum bile acids in October, this is 2 specific bile acids totaled up in the blood. Her serum bile acids in October were 2.3. I want them 0. So for those of you looking at this graph and you see high, but it seems to be within the lab's range, I want 0. I don't care what the lab wants. Okay. The lab doesn't here. I'll just take these out of here so people don't get confused. I want all of them 0. So serum bile acids went from 2.3, which is high, to less than 1, which means they stopped measuring it below that. That's as close to 0 as the lab's going to tell us. Okay? Fractionated bile acids. That's the total of these next 4 bile acids we're going to talk about. Fractionated bile acids went from a 1.5 down to a 0.2. Really close to 0. That's the total of these next 4 we're going to go over. So ursodeoxycholic acids, or the UDCA that some people take as a supplement, they're taking a secondary bile acid, a toxic bile acid, as a supplement to help them. And yes, that includes TUDCA too, for those of you taking it. We'll get to talk about that in this person's testimonial. So ursodeoxycholic acid, or UDCA, went from a 0.1, where they measured it, to less than 0.1. Great. Cholic acids went from 0.2 to a less than 0.1. Awesome. Ketodeoxycholic acids went from a 0.6 to a 0.1. And deoxycholic acids went from a 0.6 to a 0.1 also. So this person had massive improvements in their subclinical cholestasis. Subclinical means their doctor wouldn't have called it cholestasis, but they obviously had bile in their blood. It's not supposed to be there. And we reduced the bile in their blood. So let's go over some of their symptoms. This person had commented, it looks like free T3 and TPO antibody are still too high, but there's a lot of improvement overall. She's absolutely right. So let's continue. I had an abdominal ultrasound in early January. On the previous ultrasounds, they could identify 2 lesions in the liver, but this time they could barely find one of them. It looks like an improvement to me. I would say that's an understatement. Number 4, the color of my urine improved a lot. It used to be absolutely colorless. An aside here, that's bad. You don't want clear, colorless pee. If a veterinarian saw a dog or a cat or a horse peeing clear, they would assume that that animal is diseased in some way. If you are drinking so much water that you are peeing clear all day, or if you're just peeing clear even though you don't drink that much, there's a health problem going on. You probably already know that. But everybody telling you to drink until your pee is clear, they are wrong. No animal would do that to themselves. So here we go. It used to be absolutely colorless, but now the color is becoming more yellow. It is most yellow in the morning, an aside, that's normal, and less yellow throughout the day. Also, for a long period of time, I had to get up once in the middle of the night to pee. This is no longer the case. On some nights, I still need to get up, but on most nights, I do not need to pee till morning. Number 5, my bowel movements improved as well. I now have at least one bowel movement every day. Sometimes it is a single big one, sometimes a couple of small ones, but things are moving along and I'm happy about it. Number 6, there is great improvement in my digestion. I no longer take any digestive aids like betaine, HCl, and digestive enzymes. The amount of belching and burping that I experience now is considerably less compared to what it used to be. Sometimes it is almost gone. Sometimes some of it comes back, but on average, 90% better. Number 7, my sleep was mostly good till recently, but in general, I no longer have the nights when I can't fall asleep at all, and when nothing bothers me, I sleep pretty well. We worked on that little where she's talking about the sleep was a little worse recently. Number 8, my weight improved. It went up to almost 57 kilos, but then came down again and now fluctuates around 55 kilos. I feel like I eat a lot, but it does not seem to affect my weight. An aside, for those of you who don't understand, hyperthyroid folks tend to get underweight because their thyroid is running overtime and it's burning off everything they eat and it's burning off body weight. So 57 kilos, that's what? About 125 pounds. So 55 kilos is around 120 pounds, 121. This is an undertype. If you want to learn about over and undertypes, that's in the Love Your Liver program. I go over that. There are specific differences in the diets that I recommend for people who are overs versus unders. Number 9, in general, I do feel pretty good these days. Good mood, mental clarity, exercise every day, good productivity and energy throughout the day, but I do feel tired sometimes. We're not out of the woods yet. We're just making amazing improvements. So now I asked this person, She came to me on potassium iodide, a poison. I used to give potassium iodide to patients. So I'm not knocking on this person for using it. All of you out there, there's people listening right now who are poisoning themselves with potassium iodide. I will put a link. Actually, I'll just do it right now. Find it on my forum. I've posted this before. For people, for your doctor to have ignored all of the research showing potassium iodide as a poison is absolutely malpractice. Absolutely. Like here from the NIH, let me just read this one quote. The treatment of Graves' disease, hyperthyroidism, by potassium iodide is followed by rate failure of thyroid function. Rate failure of thyroid function. Rate failure of your thyroid. And you're out there listening to people telling you to take this poison. It's good for your thyroid. Don't stop it, please. I'm trying to help you. And then from Toxnet, where they accumulate lots of toxicity information on this, just read it about iodide, potassium iodide. Chronic iodide therapy has produced goiters, hypothyroidism, and rarely hyperthyroidism. What are we dealing with here? I mean, just go and read this. This is out freaking rageous. Don't take that poison. So let's go on. Quoting from her again, I was trying to fix my ongoing sinus problems and I was researching online and found some chiropractor / naturopath doctor on YouTube that was treating people with supplements. And he was talking about how these supplements were great in helping people. So I contacted the guy and he put me on some standard process pills that have liver in them and some anti-parasitic concoctions. Let me do an aside here for a second. Standard process is absolutely loaded in vitamin A and other poisons. I would never use their stuff ever. Antiparasitic herbs and antiparasitic concoctions. You can go and look up every antiparasitic herb and you will find that it causes liver injury. Go look up your favorite antiparasitic herbs, use the scientific name, and look up liver injury or cholestasis with it. They all damage the liver. Maybe that's how they work. Anyway, continuing. Taking this stuff for about 2 months completely effed up my digestion to the point where I became constipated and was burping and belching all the time. I'm going to do an aside here. That's her bile going back into her blood and backwards up into her stomach. Continuing. When I told this guy what was going on and how serious it was, he put me on TUDCA, secondary bile acid, a form of Lugol's iodine, 40% elemental iodine and 60% potassium iodide, and digestive enzymes. That improved my digestive issues for a little while. Duration paradox, if you don't know what that is. But then everything came back. The next time I saw him, he told me that I can just stop taking iodine, and that is what I tried to do. Within a week, I felt horrible. I started having a very irregular heartbeat to the point of almost blacking out, ringing in my ears, and a wide variety of nasty symptoms that I can no longer recall. When I asked this doctor to explain what was going on, he literally told me that he is not God to know that, and that I should get back on it because my body needs it. Needless to say, he is not my doctor any longer. This guy should be embarrassed. This is disgusting to me. Anyway, when this happened, my thyroid was still okay, and I have a full thyroid panel to prove it. But I already started having elevated TPO antibodies. Oh, I'll try to remember to go over this. Well, actually, let's do it right now. Retracing. Retracing is said to be the reversal of symptoms as we go back towards health. Okay? It's something that alternative practitioners, if they're actually doing good work, are very aware of. Most of the time, homeopathic practitioners are more aware of things like retracing or unwinding, whatever you want to call it. So I want you to remember her labs. The first thing that showed up for this person when she was getting sicker was elevated TPO antibodies, and her thyroid labs were still okay. But now that we're taking her backwards towards regaining the health that was taken from her by this practitioner, we're seeing her thyroid labs normalize first. But her TPO, if I recall correctly, her TPO went up a little bit. This is the exact, are you seeing how this is an exact mirror of when she was getting sick and now she's getting well and we're going backwards through the phases? I didn't think about this until just now, and I saw it, and now I'm going, this is amazing. This is like a lab proof of retracing. So anyway, continuing. What I suspect happened at this point was a thyroid storm. So I started taking iodine again, as I did not know what else I should do. And I continued to take it for about 9 months before starting the weaning off process. In April of 2021, I had another thyroid panel that showed I had low thyroid hormones and elevated thyroid antibodies, which is Hashimoto's disease. In June 2021, I repeated my thyroid panel that now showed both elevated thyroid hormones and antibodies, which is Graves' disease. What happened in between? An aside, I don't have an answer for that. Because typically it goes Graves, then Hashimoto's. She went Hashimoto's, then Graves. The cool thing about the work I do I have to know the why? No, I don't need to know the mechanism. I just need to know how to get rid of the toxicity and how to fix the nutrients. That's all I need to know. And that there's bile in the blood, and we need to shut down the bile getting into the blood. So here we go. After trying to fix my digestive issues for a while with fasts and elimination diets, I came to the conclusion that I should try removing all the globs of butter I was eating, because keto diet and fat are supposed to be good for you, right? Okay, on a side, that's sarcasm. She's being sarcastic. This is when all hell broke loose and I started experiencing hyperthyroid symptoms. By that time, I saw Judy Cho's interviews with Grant and Dr. Smith on YouTube. You guys might want to go watch those. And watched all the videos Dr. Smith had on his YouTube channel. Finally, things started making sense to me, and I understood that I was poisoned by multiple things. In June 2021, I attempted again to stop iodine, but this time I did it gradually. As I started to work with Dr. Smith, he helped me refine the weaning off process and troubleshoot a wide variety of symptoms I was having at that time. It took me 3 months total to completely wean off 12.5 milligrams Lugol's iodine and another 2 months for the subsequent heart rhythm problems to calm down. Initially, I was just taking half a tablet. My iodine was in tablet form, then reduced it to a quarter. Then I bought a milligram scale and started reducing my amount to the equivalent of 1 drop of liquid Lugol's iodine. When I reached this point, I switched to the liquid form so that I could just titrate 1 drop of iodine in the water and drink only that part of the water that corresponded to the dose. This is big brain weaning right here going on. I was able to stop iodine completely once I reduced my dose to about 0.5 milligram a day. The big finale. Needless to say, I feel much better now than when I started the program 8 months ago. I had a marked improvement in my last thyroid panel as my T3 and T4 started to return to more normal values, but there is still a long way to go. I am eternally grateful to Dr. Smith for all the help I received from him on this journey. This is what we do. This is not a game. I'm fixing what other practitioners and potentially each of us have done to ourselves with Dr. Google and Dr. YouTube, and us thinking that non-essential nutrient supplements were going to fix something. Here's a tip. Anything that you are taking that is not a food and that is non-essential, you do not need it to live. You don't need chlorella or spirulina to live. Super high in vitamin A. All those super green foods, super high in vitamin A. You do not need non-essential nutrients to live. Therefore, if you are taking non-essential supplements, You are taking them for a drug effect. You might say, but they're plants, they're not drugs. They are giving you a drug effect. Where do you think all the pharmaceutical compounds come from? Where did they discover them first? In plants. So they tweaked them so they can patent them. That doesn't mean that the plant things don't have a drug effect. Why do people smoke marijuana? Is it for the nutrients? No, it's for the drug effect. Come on. Why do people eat mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms? It's for the drug effect. So if you're taking herbs to make your body do something, it's a drug effect. Why do you drink coffee in the morning? Why are you addicted to coffee? For the drug effect. If you don't admit this to yourself, you're not going to get better. I know this may seem harsh, but this is the reality. So now I'm going to get to the questions. But that's the work that we do here. I don't treat any condition. There are certain symptoms that people show that can tell me what they need to emphasize more in their program. Like if somebody had blood sugar issues, I'd say you really need to work on the topical magnesium. That is like really, really, really important for you. Especially if you're crashing between meals like 10 to noon and 2 to 4, you need to work on your magnesium. And you also need to probably stop drinking so much fluid. Stuff like that. So like with this person, after testing, not guessing, we talked about selenium. Is selenium important to the thyroid? Yes. So they got a thyroid problem. So make sure to do your selenium. That's really important. It's as simple as that. Do I change anything that I do with a person like this? No, other than helping them to wean off of the iodide. Iodides are not that great for you. Iodides mean they're bound to something else. Your body does not use iodides anywhere. It uses iodine. That's like here, let me go over one big lie. Like there's that big magnesium supplement out for sale now where they put 7 types of magnesium that your body needs in it. Your body doesn't need magnesium bound to anything else. Your body doesn't need magnesium malate. It doesn't need magnesium citrate. It doesn't need magnesium threonate. It doesn't need magnesium bound to anything else. It needs magnesium. When they measure your blood for sodium and chloride, they measure it for sodium and chloride because the salt you ate broke apart into sodium and chloride in the water. It went ionic and it separated. Why do I use topical magnesium in water? Because it breaks apart into magnesium and chloride so you can use the magnesium. Crazy, right? Why do I not have people use Epsom salts? Because I don't think they need the sulfate. Sulfur slows ALDH, critical detox enzyme, and by slowing ALDH, you build up aldehydes, which means aldehydes deplete B1, and then you deplete B1. No one has a sulfur deficiency. Things on a hair test in what do they measure it on the hair analysis I use, the trace elements, like calcium's in the hundreds, magnesium's in the single digits typically. Or calcium's in the double digits, magnesium's in the single digits. You don't want to know what sulfur is? Sulfur's in the thousands. No one's got a sulfur deficiency. And if people say, oh, sulfate metabolism, you want to know what breaks sulfate metabolism? Vitamin A toxicity, I have the research. So yeah, don't put more sulfate in your body. Don't think sulfur's good for you. If you're a Christian, sulfur in the Bible is brimstone, and at no point in the Bible is brimstone spoken of in a positive way. It is the smell or the stench of Satan and hell. Sulfur's not the way, as the Mandalorian would say. Sulfur is not the way. Okay, so back to the questions. Some asks, how do I heal vaginal atrophy? This answer is going to be the same as anything else. Get rid of the poisons and get the proper nutrients. It's a hormonal issue. Why are your hormonal organs, glands broken? because they're poisoned and they're nutrient deficient. Just like we just talked about with hyperthyroid, I don't have a specific protocol for anything. And some people might be like, well, you should have a specific protocol for everything. Keep up with that mindset and come back to me when you figure out it doesn't work. Because you're probably using non-essential nutrients to force the body to do something. And the body will rebel, just like you heard in that testimonial. At some point, the body rebels. At some point, the body either becomes too toxic or too nutrient deficient to keep doing what you were forcing it to do. So I wish I had a better answer for you. I do have somebody where we've been working on that for a good long while. It's not an easy thing. Hormonal issues are big. They're big. They're deep. For those of you who have been like overdosing on progesterone for years, you store that in your fat. It's going to take, just like vitamin A getting out of your liver, it's going to take a long time to get that out. Anyway. Apocalypse asks, I've been waking up feeling groggy with brain fog the last few days. It started right after it rained all day, so I am wondering if it is mold or could it be something else? Any ideas? My first thought would be mold. Either mold that's growing outside. I remember my buddy who lived in Pennsylvania once. He was saying that everybody's Lyme disease there would all flare up at the same time. How could that happen? What's going on? And then he said somebody told him to go outside and dig under the piles of leaves and see what was underneath there. And he went and he dug under there and he saw all the mold that was growing underneath the leaves. So if all of a sudden, let's say there was a rain and the rain trickled down underneath the piles of leaves that had accumulated, in the forest, it's going to stimulate an explosion of mold. Now, there could also be a leak in your house. One of the things I tell people who are having trouble on my program, they don't seem to be getting any better, and any supplement we try, they seem to feel worse. Based on my experience and what I've seen with people, I immediately tell them it is quite likely or possible that you have a mold problem in your house. This is just, I've seen it work. People get rid of the mold problem or they move, and all of a sudden their problems go away. If you have mold in your house and you are avoiding it, like avoiding dealing with it, and you have chronic health problems, and you could be like, I've seen it before where women in the house have a problem and the other people don't. If you don't deal with that mold problem, it's like not dealing with your mercury fillings. Get them the hell out of your mouth. You're poisoning yourself with mercury every day, and you want to get better, and you're going to leave the poison in there? IAOMT, the International Association of Maxillofacial Toxicity, and anyway, IAOMT.org. Find a dentist who's been trained by them. Get those fillings out of your mouth. Find a professional, well-reviewed mold company, testing and removal company. Find somebody. Get that mold out of your house. If you have leaky pipes, figure it out. Fix them. Every day you have mercury in your mouth or mold in your house, you're going to be sick. Now, if it's mold outside, you can't do much about that. You're going to have to wait for the rain that fell down and stimulated the mold growth to kind of burn off, which doesn't happen super fast in the winter. But if it's outside, that's a totally separate problem. If it's in your house, you got to deal with it. That's what I got on that. Mr. asks, hello, doc. In your opinion, are dental x-rays safe? One of the few things that I benefited from reading Ray Peat's work, very few things, was that no amount of x-ray radiation has been deemed completely safe. But I mean, we live in radiation all day, every day. There's no shortage of x-ray radiation. Well, she was asking, you can't even go for a cleaning without them insisting on x-rays, so how can you avoid them? The reality is they have made it so that dentists have to do a certain number of x-rays to be providing this standard of care. What I found that if you restrict, well, you either find a dentist who will allow you to sign a waiver, or you write up your own waiver saying that you are agreeing to not have any x-rays done unless they're necessary to investigate an issue that's going on, or you're pretty much going to have to get them every 2 years if you want to see a dentist. I don't know a way around it. If somebody else has a way around it, that's great. I personally know a dentist here in town because my dad was a dentist who will not x-ray my teeth and not require me to do it. But that's because it's like family, and it's not, he's not family, but it's well, he bought my dad's dental practice and he lets me do what I want. But either the dentist can get in trouble. So if you go, even alternative dentists like the IAOMT guys, they still have to protect their butts so they don't lose their dental license. So if they know their dental board's going to come after them for not running enough x-rays on clients, they aren't probably going to be willing to lose their dental license because you don't want x-rays. It's the nature of the beast right now. So you're either going to have to find a dentist who will allow you to do it. How you're going to find that dentist, I don't know. Or you're going to have to get them probably every 2 years. That's the best I can tell you. Gretchen asks, what do you think of the pulse test where you use elevations in your pulse to identify foods, supplements, etc. that are not good for you? Excuse me. It could work. If people have any tendency towards anxiety, like white coat syndrome, where people will go into the doctor and they're going to get their blood pressure tested, and they get so stressed internally that they're so worried that they raise their blood pressure out of stress. Well, the pulse test is related. So if somebody's, I remember I do a form, I've done a form of biofeedback, kind of, most people would understand it as similar to muscle testing. I've used it on myself, and during periods of time in my life where I was having a lot of anxiety, the testing didn't work. Obviously, a pulse test, if somebody was anxious about it, about what the results were going to be, or if they're just generally an anxious person, it may not work. Somebody would have to try it and see how it correlated to foods they already know they don't get along with versus new foods that they're trying. It's probably legit for the most part when people are not overly anxious, but it has flaws. Just like every type of testing out there has flaws. And then there's the interpretation of the testing where it can be even more flawed. So, I tend to tell people we do the testing, the nutritional testing, where we actually look at the quantitative measurements of these things in people, provides us the map. That's where you get to look at the map and you get to say, you're here and we're trying to get here. Now, for those of you who have used, let's say, Google Maps might show you 3 or 4 routes to get there. So there's multiple routes to get there. Which route you take, well, so one route might be better for another person. One route might be best for you. How do you get there? Some of these extra testing methods, if people are good at them, could help the person to do that street by street, turn by turn navigation better. But if they don't have the map, there's no route. They don't know where they're going. It's hard to know where you're going. If you don't know where you're trying to go, it's really hard to get there. That's what the testing gives people. And then they can fine tune their approach with other things. That's exactly what I do in my day-to-day. So, but I don't do pulse testing. The houses we live in, do you think baking soda is a safe ingredient in toothpaste? Is it safe in foods? I think it's probably fine in toothpaste. In foods, when people start getting into bicarbonate, the very first thing that when you eat bicarbonate, the very first thing it hits is your stomach, which is supposed to be what? Acidic. So if you throw down bicarbonate into your stomach, it's going to neutralize the stomach acid that it comes in contact with. And the acid alkaline diet, the pH diet, is garbage. I got to tell you, I've had multiple people come to me who said they did the alkaline diet. And as they got themselves more and more alkaline with time, they got sicker and sicker to the point one guy told me he had teeth falling out. Okay? If only health could be reduced to a pH number, wouldn't it all be so much easier? And wouldn't everybody know about the pH diet? Think the Goldilocks effect. Your body, various fluids of your body have pHs that would be optimal for them to be at. Different fluids would have different pHs. Assuming that making all of them more alkaline is going to do anything other than push you out of the Goldilocks effect, which is, let's say, not too acidic, not too alkaline, but just right. Doesn't that make sense, right? If we were saying there's an optimal pH of each fluid in the body, you would want it to be that pH, not too acidic, not too alkaline, but just right. Your blood's supposed to be 7.4. Your urine is probably going to be a bit more acidic. That's normal. But I don't like, I saw somebody on the network the other day posted about how they started using magnesium water, which is magnesium bicarbonate in water, and they said they didn't feel good on it. I had kind of warned them a little bit, I think, before that this may not go very well. And they were taking bicarbonate of magnesium in water, the magnesium water that you may find on the internet, and they didn't feel good. And I was like, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. You start throwing in like pharmaceutical grade alkalizers. There's a saying that Tony Blauer, the self-defense guy, if you wanted to get into basic self-defense at home, I highly recommend Tony Blauer. Anyway, he says, be careful what you practice. You might get really good at doing the wrong thing. We can turn that into be careful what you supplement. You might get even deeper into the problem that supplement is going to cause. Or like alkalinity, bicarb, driving yourself too alkaline. You take pharmaceutical, baking soda is the equivalent of a drug. I don't care if they got it from a natural place. White sugar is a drug. I don't care where they got it from. Baking soda is a drug. You start taking drugs to alkalize yourself, you better be ready for what is going to go on. And then what happens when you take that out? Let's say you feel great on it. What happens when you take it out? Are you going to go right back to what you were before? Okay. If you go back to what you were before, were you doing anything other than masking a symptom? I guess not, if it all comes back. Butch asks, did you ever use DHEA for fatigue and such? No. Hormone problems are a symptom. If you think of it like and all you too deep in the conspiracy theory stuff are going to be like, oh my God, he just made a triangle. I want you to think of your health as a triangle. At the top is hormones. At the bottom would be like food and sleep and other things. Stress. And you could just go up the layers of things. Hormones are a byproduct of everything else you do. They're at the top of the pyramid. everything else you do below it, like I always, people who want to use DHEA, I bet, here, let me just do this. Wait. Oh, I'm not finding anything right away. I was looking up to see if zinc deficiency affected DHEA because I just assumed it. Anyway, taking DHEA puts DHEA into your system, which then can turn into other things. The reality of a deficiency of DHEA. So this is exactly, I mean, DHEA is not a nutrient that we should eat from foods. It's something we should make. So if you're taking a non-essential nutrient, you're doing a drug therapy, and it would raise your DHEA while you take it. It would then probably shut down your body's production of it if you were still even making any. And then when you come off of it, then this is the key thing to remember about especially hormone therapies. If you take a hormone, vitamin D is a hormone. If you take a hormone at the same time you're not addressing the causes of that hormone problem, whatever was causing that hormone problem underneath it all is slowly getting worse and worse and worse because it's not being addressed. Like, let's just say it was a selenium deficiency. You're not addressing the selenium deficiency. Or there are guys out there who are on testosterone therapy. And let's say they have a zinc deficiency, a magnesium deficiency, and a selenium deficiency. And they take their testosterone for years, and they never dealt with the zinc, selenium, and magnesium, all when the research have been associated with lowering testosterone if they're deficient. So what do you think is going to happen 10 years down the line to those deficiencies? They're worse. They're even worse. And now the very fact of taking testosterone, I don't care if it's bioidentical or not, taking extra hormones will damage your liver. Intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy is thought to be caused by progesterone sulfate. Oh, you Ray Peters might want to turn up the volume on that one. Too much progesterone in pregnancy causes intrahepatic cholestasis of pregnancy. Dope. Testosterone is known for damaging the liver. This is how, and those of you who are out there going like the post-physique people who are like looking at some 20-something or 30-something who's jacked, and they think that because their liver labs are okay, that they're so smart in their diet and they're not telling you they're on the juice. Your liver is the last thing to go typically. You can have a disastrous liver and look amazing on the outside. Oh, this might explain all these these liver eating folks, the liver lovers. There's a paper out there called The Liver Lover's Lament. It's a pretty good one. But you can look amazing. Oh, Liver King, maybe? You can look amazing while your insides are going straight down the crapper. And most of the time, people don't know until it's too late. Do you remember from that hyperthyroid testimonial I just went over? 2 spots in her liver, and now they can only find 1, and they can barely find it? Do you know I have a stage 4 cirrhosis? Was a stage 4 cirrhosis client who is now a stage 2 in 6 months. Her hepatologist, her liver doctor, was trying to say it must have been a fluke on the first test, even though there was ultrasound and liver biopsy. There was ultrasound and liver biopsy and stage 4 cirrhosis and stage 2 in 6 months of working with me. Should I raise my pinky as I say that? This is real. This is not a game. We are breaking all the nonsense of conventional medicine and alternative medicine. Herbs don't do anything to fix your liver. Not milk thistle, not dandelion root. They don't do, if they're doing something to your liver, they're forcing it to do something. That is the reality of it. What is milk thistle doing to your liver? Oh, when you go and you look into the cytochromes, it starts slowing down the cytochrome P450 system, which is a big part of your detox system. Why would you take an herb that slows down your detox system? Oh, because the short-term studies look good, Dr. Smith. Good luck with that long-term. Free Michigan asks, celery has psoralens in it, which is said to cause sun sensitivity. Have you seen this causing a problem for people? No. But I mean, if people are shoving down bunches of celery in a day, I guess if that could potentially be a problem. Hopefully people aren't shoving down like entire bunches of celery in a day. Should we avoid celery and also parsnips have it if we are going in the sun? Well, you shouldn't avoid going in the sun. So unless you're sensitive to it, and if you're sensitive to the sun, then you only go out as long as you tolerate. And if somebody felt like this was causing a problem for them, like I might eat some celery like once a week, maybe twice. But if people are like, you're not going to live on celery, there's not enough calories. So I would, if you think this is an issue for you, then don't eat celery. But I would be much more concerned about the vitamin A in your skin, which is known to be toxic. And for those of you who doubt that, one of the biggest things that they say to Accutane people and Retin-A people is don't go in the sun because it makes you get burned so easily. What do they say about birth control pills? You have to be careful of going in the sun. Oh, have you seen my video on this channel about birth control pills raising vitamin A in your blood? That this has been known since 1975 at least. Birth control pills damage your liver. Many of you women, you're here right now listening to this, trying to find answers to your health because of birth control pills. Save your daughters, please. Don't put them on birth control. The worst that can happen is they bring a child into this world. That's not a bad thing. And no, I'm not in favor of any abortions, hardly ever. So don't do birth control. You're here, and many of you ladies out there have extreme trouble losing weight because of the poisoning that the birth control pills did to you. The vitamin A toxicity it caused you, the copper toxicity it caused you. Don't do the same to your daughters. Men, don't do the same to your daughters. Teach them about how to find a good man. So, Lucky asked, do you eat any fruit at all? Are apples even too high in fructose? I'm not that against some fruit. I might eat a couple of pieces of fruit a week. Maybe a banana or two, maybe an apple or two. But that's about all I do. I find for me, fruit stimulates my appetite more than I want to. And so I don't. But no, I don't think the amount of fructose, if people are eating whole fruit, I don't believe the amount of fructose is that big of a deal. Lucky ass, I didn't feel good after eating potatoes the other day. I'm shocked. I was wondering if it was because the potatoes had sprouted some or if the potatoes are just bad in general. You can go and search Nightshades and my name, Nightshades Garrett Smith, and you'll find my Nightshades article on the Weston Price website. Probably one of the most read Nightshade articles on the entire internet. Potatoes have so sprouted potatoes are known to be toxic. There was a school in Ireland where they fed the children improperly stored potatoes, and they sent the entire school to the hospital. Potatoes I've been documented, the solanine, it's the chaconines, alpha chaconine and solanine in potatoes have send people to the hospital. I believe they cause birth defects also. Generally, don't eat green potatoes. If they're green at all, it's better. If you wanted to know if you're going to eat potatoes, first of all, treat them like you're eating something potentially toxic. Well, they are toxic, but it's just how they're stored that makes them more toxic or not. If they are bruised, you absolutely take off everything that looks like the bruise. Like if you're peeling it and you find the bruise and you want to keep peeling, you peel until everything, you can't see anything of that bruise anymore. You take off all the skin. If it's green, you absolutely see no green anymore. You peel it down until there is no green, not little slivers of green on it where your peeler missed. Get all the green off of it. Next time, eat the potatoes sooner and work harder on picking them when they're not greened. If they are sprouted, you better peel the crap out of those potatoes. If you treat the potato and then still know that they're a nightshade, you're eating foods that contain really effective poisons. That's about that. Mantrack asks, what is the safest carb to eat? I can't answer that because different people are different. I have some people on the program who, like, as an example, rice. I could say, I could throw out there, I could say rice is this is facetious. I could say rice is the safest carb to eat, but then I can tell you when I eat rice, I burp it up. I absolutely burp it up. Do I know why? No, I don't. But am I going to say the safest carb to eat for me is rice? No, because my body hates it. The safest carb to I don't the idea that carbs are dangerous when humans have glucose running through our blood 24/7. If people have problems with carbs, it's because something in their system broke along the way. If they tolerated carbs as a child and now as an adult they don't tolerate carbs, something broke. It doesn't mean that the carbs changed. It means that something broke in your system. Whether that's from toxicity, whether that's from nutrient deficiency, whether it's from fad diets, like keto diets completely break people's ability to handle carbs. It breaks people. Maybe they were broken before and they go on the keto diet and they go, oh, this is amazing. I feel so much better now. Because they're avoiding what they didn't tolerate, the thing that was broken in their system. You know, avoiding things doesn't mean that you're better. It just means you found a way to avoid something that causes you symptoms. And if it didn't used to cause you symptoms and now it does, something broke. Some people do. I had one woman come to me and we're helping her get better. She could, the only carb I think she could eat when she came was mangoes. And she came to my program, the vitamin A toxicity kind of thing, and she's eating mangoes regularly. And what did I tell her? I said, you keep working on other food. And she started finding that as she was doing what we talked about, she was able to start adding foods and reducing the mangoes she was eating. Do I go and tell her? This is the silly thing that people will do. And this is what I had to tell people. Like I had to tell this person, like, if you need to eat, you have to eat to live. The quickest way to ruin somebody's health is to not allow them to eat anything, whether your opinions on that food are good or not. So what did I tell this person? I said, we just keep working on the foods that you can eat. As you're able to increase the other foods that aren't mango. And then as you're able to, we just phase the mango out as you are able to eat more foods and you figure out what works for you and what doesn't. Was that a safe carb for her? It was the only carb she could eat at the start. Why would I take that away from her? That would be crazy. Like, the one way to guarantee you're going to die early is to not eat enough. And I don't have to be pro-metabolic to say that. You have to eat enough. If you're out there and you don't feel good and you know you don't eat enough, start eating more. This should not be rocket science, folks. But if you go, well, I can only eat 3 things without having reactions, then eat more of those 3 things. I know sometimes it sounds really kind of, silly when I say it. You're like, well, why didn't I think of that before? But sometimes people have to hear it from somebody else. I know I have to hear some things from somebody else. Sometimes I just got to hear myself talk to somebody. So I hear myself say it and then I go, oh, wow, that sounded really dumb. Got to fix that right away. So moving on. Lindy says, Dr. Gundry, my favorite, and others say you should not eat within 3 to 4 hours before bed because it stops your brain from washing itself at night. Is this true? How bad is it to eat before going to sleep? I do think that it's probably better to not go to bed on a full stomach. Definitely not a full stomach. Most of us out there will know that we don't sleep. If you eat a lot, if you stuff yourself and you try to go to bed, you're not going to sleep well. You're going to have trouble falling asleep and you're not going to sleep well. The brain washing itself, I don't know. That sounds like some hokey BS or just unnecessary. Most people will, if you eat a good dinner and you wait a while before you go to sleep, you will sleep better. I absolutely believe that. That's all I need to know. I don't need to know about the brain shampooing itself or whatever the theory is. So, but also, well, if we want to talk about bile, what does eating do? Eating causes a bile dump. Okay. Just about everybody out there with chronic health conditions, like the people that would be buying Dr. Gundry stuff or the people who are here listening to me, have some amount of subclinical cholestasis, which means they are leaking bile into their blood, whether it's from through the liver, whether it's through the bile ducts, whether it's through their leaky gut, which is where lectins become a problem when you have leaky gut. Oh, you mean lectins and bile go into the blood? Oh, that's not good. So, if you got rid of the bile dump hours before you went to bed, bile is not a good thing for your sleep quality. Bile contains copper. For those of you ladies who know you have copper toxicity and you have trouble falling asleep initially, bile is how the copper gets into your blood. Bile leaking into your blood. So if we were to, let's say, get that dump done hours before you went to sleep, you'd probably sleep better. Gosh, washing the brain of what toxic thing might we be talking about? What toxic thing would get into the brain from the liver through the blood? Oh, bile. There you go. So then we can connect it to that theory, but it's not your brain washing itself. It's that to keep the toxic bile away from your brain when you're going to go to sleep. It makes sense. And I do believe that eating your dinner earlier rather than later is better. I'm actually finding now that I'm tending to my diet has been naturally shifting in the day. And I'm not telling people to do this, but my diet's naturally been shifting towards eating more either at breakfast or lunch and eating a lighter dinner. Just a smaller dinner. I don't want to say lighter because that has different connotations, but a smaller dinner. And I'm doing really well with that, way better than I would have expected. So, to each their own. I used to think I really wanted a big dinner because all my life I'd been eating until I was full. And now that I stopped all that nonsense, I'm seeing that I'm doing better in kind of the opposite way. So, Simon asks, my thoughts on the copper 1 versus copper 2 debate. It's all a poison. The copper 2 is toxic as it is not usable and accumulates, while the needed copper 1 is lacking in our foods nowadays due to farming techniques. I think that's a bunch of garbage. Go and try to use the same, and I'm not saying you're bioavailable copper. Go search it on PubMed. It's like mentioned twice. It's a made-up concept by a washed-up hospital administrator, ex-hospital administrator. Go and try to use that same logic with mercury. Oh, mercury 1 is needed by the body and mercury 2 is toxic. And you would go, all the mercury is bad. Now, here's another thing. Chromium. Chromium 6, hexavalent chromium is toxic, but chromium 3, you need it for your blood sugar. No, chromium's not an essential nutrient. And I have research showing that the supplement doses of chromium, the 200 microgram level, is probably genotoxic. It's probably toxic to your DNA. And I see chromium detox with other toxic metals on hair tests. So being that I see those patterns and I go, chromium 6, chromium 3, that's a bunch of BS. You wouldn't use that same logic on any other toxic metal. Find other metals or minerals that this concept is actually true for, where one valence is essential and the other valence is toxic. You won't find it because it doesn't exist. If a mineral is toxic, it's toxic. So if copper 2 is toxic, I spend zero time in the people who are doing testing with me. I spend zero time fixing copper deficiency. Absolutely zero time. It's like laughable to me. People taking copper who feel better are causing themselves cholestasis. They're shutting down their bile production, which is why they feel better, because they have less bile going into their blood, because they're making less bile. And then eventually they fill up their liver with copper. Magical copper 1. Ooh, it's so good for them. I think I posted a paper. Let me find it. Let me go into my Slack. Slack here is my little private research database. People in my inner circle get access to this. Find it. Oh, come on. I know I have it. The presence of large amounts of copper in the liver in primary biliary cirrhosis has been confirmed. That's another paper. Gosh dang it. I know I have it. Well, anyway, it was a paper where it showed that inside the body could turn copper 1 into copper 2 and vice versa. The body could turn copper 1 into copper 2 and vice versa. That kind of blows this whole theory out of the water. The magical mitosynergy copper is just copper bound to a niacinamide. That's it. Nobody would say that if you take iron, like I don't know the valences of the iron 2, and it's not going to oxidize to iron 1 or iron 3 in your body. Iron oxidizes. That whole mitosynergy test where he shows that the mitosynergy takes longer to oxidize than the other stuff, that doesn't show anything other than it's all going to oxidize eventually. And oxidized copper is worse for you. Oxidized iron is worse for you than non-oxidized iron, and oxidized copper is worse for you than non-oxidized copper. That theory. Let me put it to you about how I feel about the bioavailable copper theory. Heavy emphasis on theory. I fix people who are broken who pursue this theory when they finally figure out their folly and they find me. I take them in and I fix them. That's how I feel about that. And then we test. And these folks who talk about bioavailable copper, they tend to only look at hair tests. To only look at a hair test in copper and zinc is like fumbling around in the dark. Absolute disaster. They avoid looking at the blood tests because when they start looking at the blood tests, they'll find that these people all have high copper. And the labs don't distinguish between copper 1 and copper 2. They just measure all of it. So once they start seeing the blood tests with people with high copper, kind of blows a hole in the whole thing. I mean, unless you're going to say, oh, it's all the bad copper. That's a nice little excuse. But copper 1 oxidizes into copper 2. You leave copper outside, it oxidizes. You leave iron outside, it oxidizes. That's the normal process. That's how things break down, including toxins. That's how we break things down. So, yeah, I don't buy it. I get health refugees from that approach. I'll put it that way. It's not a debate to me. It's a toxic metal. Full stop. You're not going to avoid it. No one gets to avoid it. If you want to eat plant foods, you don't get to avoid copper. Even people who are on an all muscle meat carnivore diet still have plenty of copper in their blood. And the only source of copper they were getting was from meat, which is supposedly way high in zinc, which is a copper antagonist. Oh no. I use copper antagonists in people all day long to get them better. All day long. I antagonize copper all day long. You just saw that testimonial. I fight with copper all day long. I don't care what valence it is. I don't care if it's supposedly bioavailable or not. I kick copper's ass is what I do for a living. So if people want to go put it in and they listen to this and they go, oh, this guy's so wrong because this other guy who does lots of fear mongering says that we all need bioavailable copper, just know I will be here for you when it doesn't pan out. I'll be here. I'll still be doing what I'm doing. And that's everything I have for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm over time. Have a great weekend. Hope you learned something. Don't use potassium iodide. Don't try to get more copper in your diet. If you got mold in your house, get rid of it. If you got mercury fillings in your mouth, get them out. Avoid the poisons because the poisons always win. It doesn't matter what else you do. The poisons always win. Unless you stop putting them in. So anyway, have a great weekend. See you next time. Bye, guys.